The best marketing advice I ever got didn't come from a business coach. It came from my voice teacher. Be synonymous with community. At the time, I didn't grasp the full weight of that piece of advice. Even though I got it on a surface level, I didn't realize how much of my validation at the time came from things like being seen as a good teacher, getting those Google reviews, being fully booked on my schedule. But the longer I taught, the more I built, the more I realized. It doesn't matter how good those vanity metrics are if you aren't building real, authentic connections. If students don't feel value from what you offer once they're in the door, those first online impressions don't really matter because there's nothing there for them to return to. Community is the foundation. And in a world that keeps telling creative people to hustle harder, grind longer, and build bigger, maybe it's time we return to our roots. Good music and good people. Because real marketing isn't just ad funnels or SEO hacks. It's people talking about you when you're not in the room. It's the barista telling someone you're a great neighbor. It's your students bringing in their friends. It's trust. If that sounds like the type of music business you want to build, then this series is for you. Welcome to Pitch to Profit. Before we dive in, let me introduce myself. I'm Arabella, musician, educator, and studio owner. I've spent the last half a decade building a business from the ground up, teaching voice, helping artists grow, and learning what it really takes to turn creativity into something sustainable. This series isn't about theoretical practice. It's about mastering the essentials of building a personal brand and promoting your work with confidence. If you're a studio owner or creative entrepreneur, maybe this sounds familiar. You're not a beginner anymore. You've figured out how to book clients, fill a calendar, maybe even hire a few people, but you still feel stuck. You're making money, but not keeping much of it. You're growing, but you're constantly burned out. And every time you look for advice, you're either getting tips for business on day one or strategy breakdowns for people already scaling to seven-figure studios. Where's the advice for you? Where are the tools for the people in the messy middle? That space where everything looks like it's working from the outside, but inside you're wondering how long you can keep at it. That's the space I built this series for. Pitch to Profit is where music and creativity meet business. And we're going to dive deep into how creatives turn their talent into thriving careers. I didn't set out to build a YouTube channel. I set out to solve a problem I was watching unfold in real time. The reality of our industry is that income can be seasonal, and navigating those ups and downs can be tricky. To address this, we had a team meeting at my studio where we brought in James Pignatro, a CPA and accounting professor, to help everyone understand how to budget during those slower seasons. The meeting was supposed to be just for administrative staff and teachers, but something happened I didn't expect. Our students learned about that seminar, and they started asking how to make their own side hustles into main gigs. So we also did a month-long theme in our podcast channel so our students could get in on the action. And that's when it hit me. This conversation is bigger than just our studio. Artists everywhere are trying to build careers without burning out or selling out. So I decided to build this show the same way I built my studio. Slowly, intentionally, and with our community at the center. Because no one should have to choose between their passion and profit. My own journey in financial fluency is when I moved out into my own studio space. I looked around and I realized most local businesses were focused on what looked successful. Boutique studios often spent more on the studio itself, the real estate, the furniture, the decorations, than on the students and curriculum, which was the focus to begin with. And that didn't sit right with me. I knew our students cared more about the convenience of popping into a secure, safe, and inspired location rather than a dressed up spot. So we ditched the traditional model and we tried something different. We focus on small practice rooms throughout the Boston area rather than one central location so that our students have flexibility to go and practice wherever they are. We put our resources into curriculum that builds students' competencies and confidence. So when they go to our community events, whether that be performing in this vibrant city or in meetups with like-minded people, they feel good and ready to go so that they can put their best voice forward. And that's really what we're building. Something that makes people feel ready, seen, and supported. Because at the end of the day, teaching voice isn't just about technique. It's about creating an experience people want to return to. Here's how I like to explain it. Studios are a lot like restaurants. They don't just sell food. they sell an experience. So when you market your studio, you don't just say learn to sing. You might say something like feel confident in your voice, or say love the way you sound, or be heard. People don't buy lessons, they buy feelings. When you lead with emotion, you become memorable. When you lead with community, you become essential. If this clicks with you, I highly recommend checking out StoryBrand by Donald Miller. It changed the way I market everything, and that includes how we market our lessons. Once we got clear on what we truly had to offer, we no longer had to rely on discounting our time or talent. We're unique in an industry that often relies on trial lessons. We never give the first lesson for free. In fact, we charge more for the first lesson. That might sound unusual in the music lesson world, but hear me out. Our time is valuable. When someone invests from day one, they take the process more seriously. If they don't return, we've at least covered our lead cost. If they do, we simply prorate that first lesson into their monthly subscription. On our sales calls, we tell prospective customers, loved your first lesson? Email us within 48 hours of your first visit, and we'll prorate your monthly subscription to include the first lesson. By offering the retail rate up front, we reward commitment, not just the initial conversation. It's a small change that made a massive difference and became the backbone of our entire sales strategy. Before we even ran a single Google ad, 80% of our revenue came from monthly subscriptions, and it started by valuing that very first interaction. Valuing your time is the first step. But here's the catch. The only reason this strategy works is because I knew our teachers would provide a good primary experience. We spent a lot of time investing in our teacher training. We have a whole other series on that if you're curious. Speaking of our teachers, my last piece of advice is always be collaborative. This business is built on word of mouth and handshakes. Remember that curriculum is copyrighted. Good teaching is not. You don't own the right to that. Even when someone leaves our team, we don't burn bridges. We keep the door open for collaboration. 1, because it's the human thing to do. 2, though, you spend all of that time training your teachers, and now that's their knowledge for the taking. And they might even take it to your competitor. Art is iterative, business is too. If we treat each other like partners instead of competitors, we all get better, we all grow, and we all get to keep doing what we love. And you might even get some referrals out of it. People laugh when I say I started this business by accident, and maybe they should. It was hard work, a lot of education, and 26 years of music making. But I didn't set out to be a musician, I just never stopped playing. When I was happy, I made music. When I was anxious, I made music. Name that emotion, I'd probably process it through a piano, guitar, or belting out my favorite song. Music was how I processed the world. It was where I felt filled. And over time, what started as a passion turned into purpose. That combo, just play, learn smart, work hard, is what led me here. And now I get to help others do the same. And with any luck, I can help you too. We don't have to play into the starving artist mentality. If you're motivated to turn your passion and side hustle into something sustainable, stick around. This is just the beginning. I'll have the next episode of Pitch to Profit right here when it's ready. So check that out or subscribe so you don't miss it. See you next time.